Hello, Linda. Mark, nice to meet you again.
Thanks, Lamia. How are
Thanks for
you
having
today?
us.
I'm very well, thank you. Very well.
Great.
Just a quick introduction. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourselves and NomadStays, your company, and where you are at the moment?
Okay. Would you like to kick off?
Yeah, sure. So NomadStays is a booking platform for digital nomads and remote workers to travel the world and work from anywhere. We try to make it as easy as possible for people to travel and work from anywhere. I'm Linda, the co-founder, and Mark over here is the founder. He's the ideas man and the tech dude. So yeah.
Yeah, so we've been operating for about 6 years, and it came out of the fact that Linda and I are both very well travelled, more than 100 countries between us over many years. We've worked a long time in the travel industry, and about 11, 12 years ago, we decided to go full-time travelling, basically as digital nomads, as the tiny industry was back then. And we've been travelling full-time ever since. And we've been in Europe, fundamentally based here for about 6 years now. We've got visas in France. We're calling in from France today, actually from one of your clients, Lamia. Yeah, we're staying with HouseSit Match clients today. And so we've been traveling around building NomadStays in that time. And really, the reason we did this is because as we started traveling, we found it was exceptionally hard to find well-priced and well-suited accommodation to stay for a number of weeks and be able to work with good Wi-Fi and things. At the same time, we were seeing, particularly when you get out of cities, there's not a lot of occupancy in a lot of properties, hospitality accommodation properties. And so we had the ability of bringing in clients to stay longer, and maybe the overnight price was less, but because they were staying longer, the takings from a property were much higher. And so after we tested that, we basically realised there was quite a good market there, and it took off from there.
That's
I
wonderful.
think one of the main things, the other major thing that sort of incentivized us to do HouseSit Match as well is because we really miss our animals. We used to travel. We came to Europe with our dog, and he passed away about a year and a half ago. And we really miss being with animals. I'm laughing because the cat behind us is doing some funny things. And so we find it really refreshing and lovely just to have animals around us while we're working and exploring the world. So thanks to you and your HouseSit Match, it's just been really great way for us to just keep animals around us and enjoy
Well,
this
and
new spaces.
explore new parts of the world, or in this right now we're in France, but we're in an area of France we don't know particularly well. So
Yes.
here we are for a number of weeks, and we're popping out and discovering new towns and locations.
Yeah, we went to Cognac yesterday.
Yeah.
So
I was house sitting there actually last February, and Cognac is a beautiful town, absolutely
amazing.
beautiful.
Stunning. Oh, well, there's a jazz festival on there at the moment too, so the
I'm
place is
so
really
jealous.
quite alive.
It was really lovely surprise.
That is the
Mm.
wonderful thing, isn't it, about house sitting or being able to
Yes.
travel at an affordable price, however you do it, whether it's house sitting or nomad stays. It's just great to be able to kind of step on new turf and
Yeah.
suddenly have all your feelers out. It's so stimulating, isn't it, to just kind of discover stuff, learn, the history, just meet the people.
Sure. How did you get started with House It Match, Lamia? What was your motivation?
Well, here's a nice circle round. You're Australian and you've come to Europe from Australia. So, a very good friend of mine who is Australian had been house sitting for a year. And so she was telling me how she scored, a whole year in central Perth with a house with a pool and everything to look after a dog and paid no rent. And my jaw dropped to the ground. And then we thought, well, we should do this together. Let's build something. And so it started from there. She then went off and did other fabulous things, and I carried on. Just I was completely bitten by the bug.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
house sitting has taken over my life. I left the sort of the professional world of, Cape professional services marketing and all the rest of it, and just became completely addicted to this.
Yeah.
So it's so and it meets my particular personal sort of favorite passions, of travel and discovery and new countries, especially in Europe, and of course animals. They are such a comfort, aren't they, when you're traveling and so on.
Yeah.
So that's
And
how I got started.
Oh,
that's
fantastic.
really lovely. Yeah, it's really good.
So I think I blame you
Solving your own
Australians for
problem.
all of this.
Well, Australians are big travellers. Even within the country, it's huge, as you know.
Yeah.
So it takes us a long time to go anywhere. So, I was based in Canberra for a long time, and the nearest city was Sydney. And that was only, with good traffic, it was only a 3.5-hour drive. But in
It's a
Europe,
long way to go for pizza.
well, Canberra was quite small and isolated when I started there. It's obviously grown into a significant national capital these days. But, it's, to go to the big smoke was still 3.5 hours. To go down to Melbourne, well, that's all day. It's another 7 hours to get down to Melbourne. And that's the two closest cities. So it just becomes normal to spend a long time traveling, and you can't always just go for holidays, which is what, these days.
The cat's causing a ruckus.
There's a cat getting into all sorts of trouble up here. So.
The Burmese are fabulous, aren't they? They're such characters.
Yeah.
But because they're Burmese, they're just, they'll do anything and everything, and they're like dogs more than cats.
I'm a little bit worried about the Asian vase that she's on. I'm on move.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. That's so funny.
Yeah, it is. It's really fun because these cats, actually, we have to walk them on a leash because they're just
Nice. Oh, you must take a video. I'd love to see that.
It is incredible. They really are and the most beautiful characters, like their character is
look.
Yeah.
What's his name?
Yeah. So this is Luca. We call him Prince Luca because he really is a bit of a prince.
He does look rather regal, doesn't he? Yes.
Yes.
Almost ermine colour fur.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. I cared for 4 Burmese in Nottingham once, and they were just hilarious. They're just, you only have to turn your back and they're sort of on top of the door hanging, you're in the bathroom and they appear from nowhere, playing with the cold tap or whatever. I mean, honestly, they were non-stop. There was one who used to admire himself in the mirror, which was really hilarious. I didn't realize they had that concept.
This is so much fun. Like, when you're traveling full time, you don't want to go into a sterile place all the time. You don't want it perfect and empty and super quiet and all that sort of stuff that you might get with a hotel room or an Airbnb or something like that. You want to go to somewhere where there's a family, and this is, as Linda was talking about before, the pet connection becomes an extended family for us as we're traveling, and so with NomadStays, we've got all sorts of human-based accommodation as well, including ships and boats and campers and caravans and tree houses and tents and all sorts of things, because this is where the fun is. It's the non-sterile
co-living.
Yeah.
Unusual. I have to say, I did look at your listings and I thought, God, that would be so cool. Just to kind of sort of untie from all the responsibilities and say, okay, here's my backpack, off I go.
Yep.
You have a lovely, lovely variety of options there.
And you can just take your laptop and keep working. And you've got a platform that needs to be worked online. You don't see your customers face to face all that often, except on electronic sort of mechanisms. And it's the same with us. It's all electronic these days, so it can be done anywhere in the world with a bit of internet.
I think a lot of people are actually converting their work into certainly a percentage, digital nomad type work. The format is different these days. I mean, there's a debate about whether or not it's a good thing for young people. They kind of need to be in a team, but actually they're becoming very sophisticated with how teams work online.
Very much so.
Yeah, the COVID really gave it such a boost. So these days, the nomad marketplace, or the community of nomads, is about the same size in the world as what the backpacking market is. Somewhere in the range of 30 to 50 million people.
That's incredible.
Living, working, virtually full time. There's all sorts of shades of grey and all of that. We often find somebody might go home for 3 months of the year, but they travel 9 months of the year.
Yeah. Well, that's incredible. Actually, another thing that you've done while you've been house sitting is you've been looking for places to live, haven't you?
We have.
You've kind of used it as an
So-
opportunity to get into a neighborhood or a
Yeah.
region and figure out
Yeah.
what you like and what you don't like.
It has really helped us a lot because once we decided that we were going to buy a house and here in France, we decided we went, well, where are we going to live? Like, where would we like to live? And it was interesting because we were going to a house sit down in the Pyrenees, and we went through this town, and you could see the Pyrenees in the background, and we were both traveling separately. Mark was on the motorbike, and I have arrived afterwards. And one of the first things I said to Mark is like, wow, wasn't that view of the Pyrenees amazing? I feel like I'm at home.
Oh,
and
wow.
I feel like this is it. And he's like, me too. And I was like, okay, let's look around here.
That's amazing.
So, yeah, it was really quite serendipitous.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
that's quite a different landscape to what you're used to, where you're from.
Yes and no. So
Yes,
Australia's a
I
continent.
guess so.
And we've travelled all around Australia at least once. Where I was in Canberra for many years, it's at the base of the Snowy Mountains. And
Okay.
my first tourism business was an outback travel company, a 4x4 outback travel company. So
Right.
I was in the mountains every second day.
Okay.
So in the end, we have purchased, or we're in the process of purchasing, a property on a little river, not that far from Toulouse, at the base of the mountains, just as the mountains join the plains. So
The thing we love about Europe, though, is so for us, where we've bought, in 2 hours we can be in Spain, whereas in Australia, in 2 hours we're halfway to the next town.
Yeah.
So we're like, wow, this is really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was watching an American on Facebook, as it happens, who has just moved here with his wife, and he works in Europe. So he had to travel for a trip to Lisbon, I think. And he was saying how he felt really guilty as an American who has now landed in Europe, UK and Europe. He lives in UK. He's come out, but there was no time to visit anything because he was working.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the challenge, I guess. You think you're relocating, but if you have that footloose and fancy-free position as a digital nomad, actually you are wherever you work. I mean, you can be there in 100%, absorbing it all.
We're constantly doing phone, video meetings while we're out and about. On the river there in Cognac the other day, we were sitting there doing a video call. Just short, half an hour, catch up with another French startup sort of thing. And as everybody's happy because they've got the business going on, and then we could turn around and go and explore the Hennessy factory, as it turned out. So,
Oh, it's a tough
As
job.
you do.
yeah. But we're as entrepreneurs, as you're working 7 days a week.
Yeah. And you're always kind of on. It's not easy to, long gone are the days where you could just leave your laptop at the office and leave your diary at the office and go somewhere else. That just doesn't happen anymore.
No.
It's very different now. But actually, there's excitement there. It's more stimulating, I think.
It's really interesting to see niche platforms like ours and yours starting to grow really well. Not only do you save yourself a huge amount of money, but the quality of the experience is deeper and it's richer, and so your life becomes a more interesting, it's fuller, there's much more variety, you're meeting a lot more people. Even we had the pool guys come through today, just chatting with them for a while was really quite nice. Whereas when you're a tourist and you're skimming over the top, you get to see things, you might hear something every now and then, but you don't have that much engagement beyond a few pleasantries. But when you're around for weeks or months, as the slow movement travel area is, you just have time to spend with people, and learn a lot more.
I completely agree. The last house that we did in France, the people there were fabulous. They were so generous with their time. They spent a few days with us actually, which was
Right.
great. So, they took us to their favorite World War II cafe, and they told us where, the SS
Oh,
used to
wow.
sit, and then it was just really interesting.
Yeah.
They told us about books to read about the area, Moondrop over Gascony. If you haven't read it, is a
Oh, yeah.
fantastic memoir of a female officer who was landed in Gascony, and
Yeah.
then she was one of the people helping so the soldiers kind of arrive and depart,
Yeah.
undercover.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's, as you say, you kind of get into the skin of a place.
Amazing.
Yeah,
So how's
fantastic.
your French coming along? How are the language skills?
Oh, not so good. Linda's a lot better than me, but
Well, it's early days.
we
You've just
spend
arrived.
well, we just
Hardly.
we spend all the time talking in English around the world. We're in 90 countries now, so
Fabulous.
and English is the lingua franca for the nomad industry. Linda's just been talking with Japan, but it's done in English, and so all of the day we're working in English, and when we're talking French, well, it's really just when we're going down to the supermarket or to a bar or something like that, and so the conversation gets a little bit lighter.
We can get by, but it's a bit of a journey for me. That's for sure. But I'm enjoying that challenge as well. What about you? Were you brought up with French speaking as a second language, or?
Well, I was born in Africa, and English was the main language there. But
Yeah.
I did learn Arabic and French. But then by the time we came to
Brilliant.
Britain, I'd forgotten everything, and it was all a case of the English you learnt is rubbish. Start again. So my parents didn't really think about language. It was all about get to know the language of the country because you had to take exams.
Yeah.
And then I took French as GCSE O level at 16, and then A level at 18, and so on. So I began to pick it up from there. And I spent a bit of time as a student in France. So that really helps. When you're entrenched in a country and you're kind of just immersed, you kind of have to. And that was the fun thing. And then spending a month house sitting in February, that was a great chance to practice. Although I found that, as you say, a lot of people speak English and want to practice their English. You almost have to accost somebody in a market to say, speak to me in French. But yeah, no, it's so that I have a sort of a polyglot background.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That's an interesting way to grow up, I think, because it definitely does something to your brain when you're learning another language, using both sides of the brain. You're having to be a lot more creative.
Yeah.
It certainly makes me more curious about people. I have to say, I lean into languages. I lean into different types of people. I kind of like that. I love the diversity and the variety. It just lights my candle.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's interesting. So this particular set, because of the way the dates and things turned out, the fact that they had to run to get to the UK in time for the birth of their grandchild, the owners had left before I arrived. So I turned up and collected the key from the neighbour, who are Dutch, as it turns out, quite elderly Dutch. But we were chatting away, and their son had just arrived. He lives in Banff in Calgary, so English was very easy. And we were just chatting, and they had spent most of their life in Africa. We keep talking about Africa today, but they worked for Heineken. They travelled around Rwanda, Burundi, Chad, and all these sorts of places, which are deepest, darkest Africa. Some of the places that I've been lucky to explore, and next minute we're spending like an hour chatting about different experiences and the cultural differences, and you can't plan this, you can't schedule this, you can't put this into a travel planning app, whether it's got AI or not, to get this is the serendipity, the joy of traveling a bit slower, a bit less organized.
And you feel like you're helping someone, like you feel like you actually have a need, like they need you and you're there to help. So you build lovely relationships as well, what we found all over the place.
Yeah.
So,
And I guess, as we found with house sitting, we're in constant communication with the owners of the property, debating bits and pieces, sending them updates of their animals and the garden. And as you know, the heat in the last couple of weeks has been very high in Bordeaux, where we are at the moment. And, you know, there's a magnificent garden here. So there's a massive amount of water that needs to be poured on in all of that heat just to keep this beautiful garden going. And of course, the owners are worried about that. And so it's not really a job. You know, it's a privilege to be in a magnificent old place like this with a wonderful big garden and so forth. But, you know, you've got to constantly communicating and things are changing all the time. So again, it's you're immersed into somebody else's life, not skimming across the top.
And the neighbours usually are very, very accommodating, and they want to help you out, and make it a great experience for you as well. So it's a good way to sort of immerse yourself into somebody else's world. It's very cool.
Yeah, I do like that actually. In the last place I was at, they had a small cafe in this tiny village, and apparently the mayor of the village was very proactive, and she had applied to the government to have a grant, and she won 750,000 euros to build a community centre. And and
fabulous.
Actually people came from all around, and they had music events, they had a seamstress who came, they had somebody who comes to mend your bits. It's just but the food was great and at a very affordable price. So they do communities in a way that's very interesting, and I found transport was fascinating in France. There was very affordable parking outside of the town, and a tram or a bus at a €2 cost.
Yep.
Very affordable.
On that transport, ever since we've been in France, which is 7 years now, I started using BlaBlaCar, and it's a great option.
Right,
a lot of people don't use it, or they don't know about it. So I always say, download the apps, BlaBlaCar and Flixbus, because it's easy to get around with those applications. I took a BlaBlaCar here as well from my last sit because our car melted. Computer melted in the heat.
But apparently European cars are not made to Australian standards, and 44 degrees has created a whole lot of cars in France that are currently in the shops.
So BlaBlaCar's doing quite well as a result.
I think so. But you travel 3 or 4 hours for under €30. Shared.
That's very good.
Almost door to door. It's pretty.
I met the founder a few years ago, actually. He was at an FT symposium. Yeah, really cool guy. Cool guy. Very sharp. And it was a joke, apparently, the whole blah blah thing, because he didn't like talking to people in cars. And so he thought that was a fair way to rate your co-passengers. It's like, I don't want to talk, or I'm happy to talk. So I thought that was pretty fun. Yeah. That's why it's called BlaBlaCar. You either blah or you don't blah.
Wow, I didn't know that, did it?
Yeah. That's why it's called blah blah.
It's very interesting because it was something that came up in an innovation weekend in Australia when we were travelling around Australia. Somebody came up with the concept of doing it in Australia, but it doesn't really work very well in Australia simply because of the vast distances, whereas there's more people, more cars, more everything here than there is in Australia. So it didn't really work. And they had done it back then. That was 7 years ago. They had already been going for 10 years, or 15.
I think BlaBlaCar is 20 years old these days.
Yeah, so
it is.
It's
In the UK, we have lift share as well, which is pretty good. And they, I think, predate BlaBla by a year or two.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it's been the whole co-riding thing has been quite a common European practice. But you're right, distances are different, and people are happy to kind of share. There's a whole eco drive as well, which kind of puts pressure behind that. So that's interesting. That I'm sure something else will happen within Australia to kind of create other options.
Have it more now than they did when we were in Australia, but by the time we'd left, they hadn't really started anything except for literally hitchhiking.
Which is outlawed in half the states. But
Yeah.
Did it.
Oh, really? Outlawed. Gosh, that's interesting.
Yeah. I find it interesting when you look at the whole travel industry. As more and more people become entrepreneurs, they are working from home or remotely. They've got greater flexibility in their schedule. A lot of freelancers, they've got to do a certain amount of hours, but it doesn't matter when those hours are built. But what it means is that you can slice your life with your travels a lot easier. And there's this growing market of all these different people, and the traditional, tourist apps and systems and things like that they're not necessarily growing, because there's more and more percentage of people moving to niche platforms. And as we find going a little bit slower.
Yeah.
So it costs nothing to join HouseSit Match effectively. And then you can do a year's worth of accommodation for nothing. We've been traveling for a year and a half now, nearly 2 years, house sitting
back to back
almost all the time.
Yeah.
So
for an £89 annual fee, that's
there you go.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like less than the price of one night in a hostel. I mean, it's just
absolutely
easy to amortize.
Even when we've been renting the last 6 or 7 years around Europe, we've never paid €1,000 a month. We've always been less than that with our own platform. So
I think the variety of options these days is really it's refreshing. I think it's just visibility of them, so that you don't always know what's available, and creating that visibility is pretty key, I think.
Yeah. How are you finding AI at the moment? Is that disrupting things in a good or bad way for HouseSit Match?
Do you know what? I don't do a lot with AI, but what I'm finding is a pleasant surprise is people often come to me and say, "Oh, no, we looked up on ChatGPT and you came up as the highest rated." Or we found you on Claude and Claude says that you're trustworthy. I was like, oh, okay. Who knew?
Yeah.
So
great.
Something is happening where people are citing us. And that's really heartening. But it'd be interesting to see how those AI tools pan out, how the advertising is going to take shape on there and stuff. Because I'm sure it will anytime soon.
Yeah, they have to. It's costing so much to run those platforms that they need some money coming in.
I mean, how many hundreds of billions have they poured into them? It's eye-watering.
Trillions.
They'll never get it back with a few monthly subscriptions. I mean, it's not going to happen.
No, well, we subscribe to a couple at $20 a month or something like that, and it's an amazing amount of value for such a small amount of money.
Absolutely.
We use it extensively. Actually, have done for a couple of years, and just allows us to refine things faster, spit new things out faster, turn off
ideate before coming together and talking about something that we might add onto the platform. So it helps us to do a bit of market research with Perplexity and different types of apps, LLMs, and it definitely does help.
Speeds things up, definitely.
Into new markets. And I'm not sure. I was always very curious about how you found moving into France, expanding HouseSit Match into France. How did you?
For some years now. I was originally, before COVID, I was writing blogs for a number of platforms, and writing about experiences that I'd had and other people had had. And then there were some publications that had recently launched, like The Good Life France, which is a great magazine if you don't know it.
Okay.
And then, of course, Connections. Latterly, we started advertising in Connections, which is how gorgeous. Who's that?
Yeah, this is Coco.
Coco, fabulous. Yeah. So then looking at the expat publications, but originally I was simply writing as much as I could about the experience. There are a couple of very established platforms already in France, so that's the challenge that we have. But it doesn't mean that people don't want choice. People still want choice. And I think you're right. The AI tools are great for a market scan. Accuracy is a bit challenging sometimes. So I find I have to double check everything.
Yeah, and
Um,
you need to check different platforms or try
Cross-check.
different things, cross-check.
And they all have strengths, don't they? Perplexity is really good, I think, in terms of tech. I find it very useful in terms of tech and HTML and that kind of thing. Claude for research and content, so they all have strengths, I think.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely, they do.
Yeah. But in terms of the
Mm.
French market, yeah. So initially I was writing for blogs as fast as I could write, and then looking for established channels for expats. That's how we started.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because when we looked at NomadStays, there was a platform like us in many countries, but they were stuck inside that country. We're talking about blah 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 car before. That was just stuck in France for a long, long time. Over 10 years, they didn't move out of France. And then they've slowly started expanding only in the last 3 or 4 years into other countries. So we've travelled, we picked up clients, we gave people lifts from Croatia there a couple of years ago, and the UK one. We often use the UK one because it's in the English language, and we can look at the French stuff. But a lot of the French computer apps and things like that are all in French and limited only to the French-speaking market in France. So unless you've sort of moved here a long term or got really good friends that have pointed you to these things, you generally don't find them. To get that multi-country international platform takes it to the next step, and sort of I guess that's one of the reasons that your platform's growing, our platform's growing, because we are multi-country.
Yeah, multi-country with that broad view, and looking for, well, we primarily start with an Anglophone audience, and that's where we focus. We're too small really to kind of become multilingual. That's not quite what we're about. But anyway, HouseSit Match is growing, as you say. NomadStays is growing. Long may they continue to grow.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, I'm so pleased that you did this house sit. I would love to see videos of the garden and photos if the owners don't mind you sharing them. Maybe you could write a blog for us, Linda. That would be really cool.
Yeah, I would love to, because
Certainly about the cats. Gosh, they sound like
the
cats.
they are characters, absolute characters. And the region is just amazing to explore. So we were heading off to La Rochelle today, but we ended up getting caught up with some other things. So maybe tomorrow we'll jump on the motorbike and go down and have a look.
A wonderful time, and enjoy the rest of the house sit. I'm sure it's going to be terrific.
Yeah, and we'll see you in France in a couple of months' time, by the sound of things.
Well, I will touch base and let you know when I'm dropping in.
Indeed.
Excellent.
Thanks so
Hopefully
much.
you'll be established and the fire will be on and we'll have a glass of wine.
Oh, there we go.
Wonderful.
Okay. Thank you very much for today, and thank you for doing the house sit.
Thanks, Lamia.
It's a pleasure.
Okay, all the best.
Okay, cheers for now.
Bye.